Hello everyone, Silent here, and welcome back to another Bedrock Edition video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new 1.16 Nether update for the Bedrock Edition and all of the brand new things that you can farm in this update. The Nether update is a very big update and introduces all kinds of new things for you to farm, new mob farms, and new crop types, and new block farms, all the different things that you can imagine. You can farm it in this update, and it's really exciting. Not only that, the Nether update has fixed hundreds of bugs on Bedrock Edition and changed quite a few base mechanics of the game as well. So some old designs and some old farms from previous updates have broken, need updating, or need design changes, and we're going to be covering all of that in today's video as well. Overall, there's close to 30 new types of farms that you can build, along with a whole bunch of other things that you can update and change with older farms. So this is a very exciting update. If you are a technically inclined person, or you like building contraptions, or just farming items, you should really enjoy the Nether update because there's just so much technical stuff to do. There's going to be 3 different parts to today's video. The first part is going to be all of the brand new mob farms that you can make in the 1.16 update, stuff like your gas farms and your Magma cube farms and your Piglin farms. All of those will be right at the start of today's video, and then after that we're going to hop into the new non-mob farms, so things like your Piglin trading and your different fungus tree farms and all of that stuff. And then at the end of today's video we'll cover all of the old stuff that needs to be updated, so things like raid farms, hostile mob farms, squid and fish farms. All of that's going to be at the end of today's video. Anything from previous updates that's broken or needs changes, you will find at the end of this video. Timestamps for everything are on screen right now. Dedicated tutorials for all of these new different farms and for all of the fixes and upgrades will be coming to this channel and my second channel here very soon. So make sure you subscribe if you don't want to miss any of my brand new 1.16 Nether update videos and all the other stuff that I'll be releasing as well. I have a lot of content planned for 1.16. Our first farm isn't even Nether update related, and that is iron farms. Very exciting times. Iron farms have gotten a massive buff, and they will now spawn iron golems 10 times quicker than before, meaning that a single iron farm can produce hundreds of iron ingots per hour instead of just like a couple iron ingots per hour. This is going to completely change the game for so many different people. This is the first time that we've actually had real, easily accessible iron to the masses, and I cannot wait to see what everyone actually does with iron. Iron has been so scarce on Bedrock for so long, and those days are finally over. So there's 4 main things that your iron farm needs in order to produce iron. You need 20 beds, 10 villagers, 75% of your villagers must have worked at their workstation in the previous Minecraft day to get golems, and of course every villager in your iron farm must have a bed, so not really anything to worry about. Once you get golems to spawn, they will basically spawn non-stop, and it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to this, and I'll have a design out in a couple of days. We now have a very simple and easy Magma cube farm with the Magma cube spawner that can be found in the Bastion remnants. These can be found at the bottom of the big ones by the treasure room, and this is going to be a lot of fun to build. There's lava, there's Magma cubes, and I can just see many deaths with designing these. Of course, the best place to build a Magma cube farm is going to be in the Basalt deltas, because these things spawn here literally all the time, and this is definitely the best place to make a big, efficient Magma cube farm, although it's going to be quite a pain because, you know, there's lava everywhere. Well, I was actually really looking forward to this one because I've been thinking about this for absolutely years, but lava does not actually push entities on Bedrock Edition, and at least it doesn't appear to, and this is a feature that was actually added to Java Edition. So if you're playing on Java, you can make a new blaze farm where like lava actually pushes blazes. I've been thinking about this for literally years, and now the one update where it's added, they didn't add it to my platform. I'm really sad about this, actually. I wanted to design this, but yeah. Hopefully we'll see this in a new Bedrock update sometime soon. We can now make some pretty mildly okay Enderman farms in the warped forest biomes. These things spawn very frequently in these blue warped forest biomes, and you could make a very specialty farm that probably wouldn't be that efficient in one of these biomes. It would require a fair amount of perimeter work, even with the 44 radius despawning, but it could be done, and it could be a decent alternative to building an Enderman farm in the end dimension if you just really don't like the end that much. So on the topic of specialty farms, you can now make a Strider farm for string. Of course, it's not going to be that efficient. It is going to require a lot of work. Right now, Striders actually spawn on the bottom of the lava lakes, so that's going to be a fun time. You'd have to slab the bottom of the lava lakes and make a little bit of a perimeter, and then put down like a floor with lava above it. Maybe some flying machines. I don't know. You can figure out the concepts. I'm just telling you that it's a possibility to farm it. It's not going to be efficient. It's definitely going to be a weird thing to farm, especially because if you want string, you can just farm cats. I mean, cats is a much better alternative to Striders, and probably more humane. If you find yourself a Crimson Forest biome, you can then make yourself a Hoglund Farm. Of course, Hoglins are very useful for pork chops, one of the best foods in the game, right behind pie, and then of course farming leather as well. Now, the good thing to know about Hoglins is that they're actually afraid of the warped fungus. So if you plant one of those down, they're gonna run away directly into your kill chamber, making a farm for these guys extremely easy and very straightforward to build. When it comes to Piglin, there's no real reason to farm these guys as they don't really drop anything. And when it comes to zombified piglins, you can just make an overworld farm using nether portals. Those still work fine in 1.16. No real reason to build a farm here in the nether because it's not going to be nearly as efficient as a portal farm. Next up, we have two new farms for the Soul Sand Valley biome. First of all is a skeleton only farm, just because these guys spawn so often here. It's ridiculous. And then next up is a ghast only farm. Ghasts spawn all the time in these biomes. It's honestly kind of annoying, but it's also very, very convenient for making a super simple, straightforward ghast farm. Ghasts are a cool thing to farm. I've been wanting to farm these guys for a while. I made a prototype like 8 months ago, but the world that prototype was in got corrupted, so I never made it. And now I'm glad that I didn't, because it's way easier nowadays. And next up, we have a piglin bartering, an actually good use for piglins. All you need to do is basically to spend some gold about every 10 seconds. These guys will pick it up, and then they'll drop their things onto a hopper. And as you can see, after a short amount of time, you get a fair amount of things. Of course, this is an imperfect system just for demonstration, but you can get a lot of different stuff from them. So this is the only way to get the soul speed enchantment is from piglin bartering. Of course, that makes you walk faster on soul sand and soul soil. Pretty cool. And of course, you can get iron boots with soul speed on it. Also, quartz, gravel, and soul sand are all now a renewable resource thanks to this new piglin bartering, so that is pretty massive. 3 new things, completely renewable in this update. Really, really awesome. And then we have some kind of mid-tier things, fire resistance potions and fire splash potions, obsidian, crying obsidian, and then of course fire charges. Pretty okay things to get. And then we have all these other drops that they can also give you, which we can very easily get from other sources and other types of mob farms. So this is something that you might not think about, but 1.16 is a great time to start designing some new fortress farms. We have the new despawning and spawning mechanics of 1.16, which makes it so that we need to reconsider some old concepts. And also, there's a lot more nether mobs that you could potentially get from a fortress farm, and not to mention, you no longer really need to put in the effort for a huge perimeter. Thanks to the radius 44 despawning, we now don't really need to worry that much about a large part of the nether if you do your farms right. So nether update is actually a great time to reconsider our options and start making some new fortress farms. Keep in mind that Bedrock Edition has not had the feature of wither roses preventing everything except wither skeletons from spawning in them. This is a feature that was added to Java Edition, but as you can see, we have a whole bunch of piglins spawning in our wither roses, which does mean that a whole lot more farms are possible, but super easy wither skeleton farms are not yet possible in Bedrock Edition. The Nether update has also added a lovely new feature that we've been missing for a while, and that is zombie villager curing, reducing the villagers' prices. So if you were to turn one of your villagers into a zombie villager, of course you need to do that on hard mode, you could then cure them, and that guy would have reduced prices. Not only that, but he'll tell all the other villagers around him to also give you reduced prices as well, which is extremely convenient. So for instance, we could take a villager that's like over here, turn him into a zombie, cure him, and then he would give us reduced trades, but everyone else over here would also give us reduced trades as well, meaning that we can make some brand new villager trading halls, exploiting this little mechanic and getting us tons and tons of very cheap trades. So as far as I'm aware, that is all of the new mob farms that we can make specifically for the 1.16 update. Of course, there's a few old mob farms that have broken in 1.16, and I'll talk about those at the end of today's video, but otherwise, let's hop into all of the new farms that are not mob related. First up, we have Basalt Farms, and of course, you can craft basalt into the polished basalt as well. This is a very simple thing to automate. All you need is lava to flow over a piece of soul soil that is next to a piece of blue ice, and then you'll get yourself some basalt. This is extremely easy to automate, as it's basically the same as a cobblestone generator, but you don't have to worry about the water. So all I have here is an observer, piston, 2-tick repeater, and some redstone dust, and as you can see, this thing is cranking out the basalt. Of course, these things can get more complicated and even faster if you want an automatic blast chamber, or so many per hour, but it's the same basic concept as a cobblestone farm or a stone farm, so just treat it like that. This next one isn't technically in farm, but it is something that you can automate. The respawn anchor is of course used in the Nether, and you have to refill it with glowstone for it to actually respawn you here in the Nether. Every glowstone is basically 1 life. You can read from these things with a comparator, and you can fill them up with a dispenser as well, so it's extremely easy to automate. And next up, we have 2 very simple farms for the Crimson and Warped Vines. These things are extremely easy to automate, either with a bone meal to make them grow super fast, or you can just have an observer automatically detect when they randomly grow, or you can set up a massive field of these things and harvest them with a flying machine if you really want a ton of them. Now, as far as I'm aware, these aren't actually useful for, like, anything at all. They're just fun and cool looking, but they're another thing that you can farm, and you should treat these things like bamboo or like kelp, because you basically farm them in the same exact way. And next up, we have the Fungus, Root, and Sprout farms, and these are basically just a flower farm, but for the nethery things. So as you can see, we have a bone meal dispenser back there. That's going to bone meal these things, and then shift it, and then we're going to get tons and tons of items. So this is a very simple way to get these things in mass, and of course you can grow these funguses into the large fungus trees, which we'll talk more about in a moment. So as you can see, very simple way of getting these things. Extremely basic farm that we've already been using for ages for flowers in the overworld. Now, one thing I do want to specify is that if you want to get the actual little sprouts, you'll need to be in survival mode, and you will need to be using shears to actually acquire these things. And again, that is just for the sprouts. The funguses and the roots, those actually pop off if you move the blocks underneath them. And next up, we can also farm the Crimson and Warped Neliums. All you need to do for this is simply bone meal a piece of netherrack that is right next to a piece of Nelium, and then that'll turn into whatever color Nelium there is. So as you can see, you can very easily automate this. Now, keep in mind that you can only acquire these blocks with Silk Touch, or if an Enderman drops it when they die, which they definitely deserve, so you will need to do this manually. And next up, we have a Fungus tree farm. So of course, if you bone meal these things, they turn into a massive tree, and that gives you a whole bunch of different materials. You can do this for the warped trees, and you can also do it for the crimson trees as well, giving you these stems, and these stems basically act as wood, so you can use these for all of your different crafting recipes in the game. Very convenient. And then of course, course, you can also get these warped warp blocks and the nether warp blocks, which you can also compost to get a return on your investment of bone meal. Now, I think you actually get enough bone meal from all of your warp blocks to reinvest back into your farm to basically infinitely auto-generate logs for you. It's really quite convenient and quite advanced. You can actually, if you do it right, have a fully automatic tree farm going all the time for you. And that is pretty amazing. Would highly recommend. In case I wasn't clear enough, these types of farms would produce enough bone meal to feed itself and also give you a bone meal return, so you could then invest that bone meal back into like a vine farm or a root farm or whatever you want to do. Use the bone meal for whatever you like. Bone meal is incredibly powerful in Minecraft. And that concludes the second part of today's video. Let's now go ahead and take a look at all the farms that are broken due to 1.16 either changing mechanics, fixing bugs, or adding some parity changes. There isn't too much, and honestly, it's not that big of a deal to work around. I'll have fixes and update videos out for all of these farms relatively soon, and you can look forward to those. I know a lot of you are going to be curious about this, so I figured I would mention it here. AFK Fishing has not changed at all on the Bedrock edition from what I can tell. All old farms still work from what I've tested, and also the loot tables are still the same as they were in previous updates. Bedrock edition has not been nerfed at all, only Java edition got the AFK Fish Farm nerf. So as you can see, we're AFK Fishing here for a little while, and if we look at the loot chest that we have, as you can see, we've gotten an Unbreaking book, so we can get any enchantment book still, and of course we've gotten an enchanted fishing rod too, along with name tags, so we're still getting all of the treasure loot that we would normally get from an AFK Fish farm. There has been no nerf to the loot tables. Old Trident farms that used to use a zombie spawner are now broken. The only time that you'll get a Trident from a drowned nowadays is if a drowned is already holding it, and of course you want to kill them with looting 3 to get the best chance. So they finally fixed the parity issue of Tridents. Tridents are now actually rare-ish on the Bedrock edition, and you'll need to put in a little bit of effort to actually get these things. So nowadays a Trident farm will look like probably up in the sky above the ocean, allowing all the drowns to spawn, probably sending them to the Nether to get them out of the mob cap as quick as possible. The drowned cap is rather low after all, and yeah, basically you're going to need to put a little bit more work to get your Tridents. Trident killers still work just fine, so you still want a lot of Tridents in your world, and I hope that you stocked up before 1.16. It's kind of impossible not to. Before 1.16, these guys dropped them like they were going out of style. So of course, my mob farm and pretty much every single other general hostile mob farm for Bedrock edition has been broken by 1.16, and this is thanks to the radius of 44 despawning. So this farm right here, there's not really a good way to use it in this update. It'll work a little bit, but nowadays the best way to build a mob farm is to put it above you. That way all the mobs can still fall to their death just fine without despawning, and you don't really need to worry about it. Now, the absolute pros of having despawning means that you do not need to build any form of perimeter around your farm. Really choice. So mob farms overall are going to be a lot easier to build in survival mode. You're going to have a lot more reliable rates, and overall you won't need to troubleshoot things as often. Most raid farms, including mine, will also need to be changed up slightly as well. Due to the radius 44 despawning, you'll need to lower the entire upper part of the farm downwards. That way, that is so loud. That way your pillagers from your pillager outpost don't despawn. So I'll be releasing a new tutorial, a fully inclusive tutorial for the raid farm. I know a lot of you guys have complained about my 3 separate tutorials for the same farm, but you know, they keep breaking small little bits, so it's not worth redoing the tutorial. But now seems how you gotta literally rebuild the whole thing. A new tutorial for the entire thing. One tutorial, the entire farm. It'll be fine. You'll see that on the channel here soon. Why is that so loud? Squid and fish farms have also been broken in this update due to squids, fishes, dolphins, and turtles not spawning in bubble columns. As far as I can tell, this is likely a bug. They specifically made it so that guardians can spawn in bubble columns, so it doesn't make sense for the other oceanic mobs to not be able to spawn in a bubble column. Either way, these farms will now be a lot easier to build because you can simply build them way up in the air, far above the ocean, and then you no longer need to do any form of perimeter work. So not only will these farms get a lot cheaper, they'll also be a lot easier, they'll be a lot smaller, and they should be even more efficient thanks to ocean mobs actually despawning. It's going to be great, and as long as we can get this bug patched, or as long as we can design around it, it should be perfectly fine. I'll have more information about this in a Bug Rock of the Week episode coming your way soon. My advanced guardian farm and honestly quite a few other things in Minecraft will need some updates due to pressure plates not allowing items or experience past them and water streams. As you can see, they're acting as like a solid block instead of not having any collision box, and they're stopping all of the items from passing. So this is a very, very easy fix. All you need to do is replace the pressure plate with a button, and that'll allow everything to pass through. Or what you can do is simply put down a sign. Either one works. I think buttons are probably cheaper and easier because you don't need to mess around with signs, but you can do whatever you like. I know some of you are going to be curious and going to be wondering, and it does not look like radius of 44 despawning has really affected the Guardian farms all that much. As you can see, we have Guardians out in these far edges, so it looks like we've only actually lost 4 spawn spots in our Guardian farms, and that is the 4 far corners. So Guardian farms will have slightly less rates in this update, however, it shouldn't be too big of a deal. The next thing that broke in 1.16 due to a bug is villager trading halls with this kind of setup. So whenever you have a minecart right here resting on a trapdoor, when you load this villager trading hall for the first time in 1.16, that minecart is going to roll downwards with your villager in it and probably go to your kill chamber. As you can see, it has happened to all of these villagers. So this is a very bad bug, and it might very well wipe out your entire trading hall. I'm very sorry about that. This was introduced right at the very end of the 1.16 beta development cycle, so there really wasn't any time for them to fix this one, and unfortunately there's not much you can do about it. However, it only happens when you first upgrade it to 1.16. As you can see, we can place the minecarts in there now, and then if we relog and unload these chunks or whatever, the minecart's gonna stay there. So it only happens to like minecarts that were placed in 1.14 or before. Really unfortunate, but next time I design a villager trading hall, I'm going to design it so that hopefully it never breaks in a future update. Kind of a hard thing to do for Bedrock Edition, there's so many bugs. The next casualty of 1.16 and mob despawning is these super large, mega awesome Enderman farms, also sometimes referenced as 5-chunk Enderman farms, and these things will not work on a 4-chunk simulation distance unless you have 2 players. You'll need 1 player down at the kill chamber, and then you also need 1 player up here at the AFK spot. That way the Endermen don't have a chance to despawn in between the spawn platform and the actual kill chamber, which is pretty much how you should have been using this farm anyway. This is really built optimally for 2 players. Right now we're on a simulation distance of 6 chunks, as you can see from our game settings right there. Simulation distance of 6, and the farm still works fine. So if you're playing on a world with simulation distance 6 or above, this farm will still work just fine for you. And if you're playing on a realm or a server, then just get 2 players to use this properly. And the final farm that I'm aware of in 1.16 that needs updating is ice farms. Ice now forms in parity with Java Edition. So previously it used to just start freezing wherever it felt like because ice was pretty cool, but now ice needs a block next to it in order to start freezing. So a body of water will start freezing from the edges inwards, as you can see here. So any of your ice farms will need to be updated. That way there's actually something for the ice to start freezing off of in order to be efficient once more. So that is every single new farm that we can make in the 1.16 update, along with all of the things that have broken and need to be updated for 1.16. If I've missed anything, which I'm sure I have, it's a really big update, then please do let me know in the comment section down below. As always, I love reading your guys' comment and all of your feedback and suggestions. The reading comments is honestly really quite fun. If you guys did enjoy today's video, then of course make sure to leave a like, as it significantly helps out the video and the channel a ton, and thank you very much for doing so. If you're new here and you want to see more videos like this in the future, then of course make sure to subscribe. I will have a plethora of new 1.16 videos releasing on the channel here very soon, so keep your eyes peeled for those, and otherwise I'll see you all down in the comment section, and in the next one, thank you so very much for watching. And then there was silence.